Picture this. It's early Sunday morning, and gliding at 25,000 feet over the incredibly volatile waters of the Strait of Hormuz is a U.S. MQ-1 Predator drone. It's up there on a routine but highly sensitive reconnaissance mission, right over one of the absolute most critical maritime choke points on the entire planet. Down below, the waters are crowded, the airspace is super tense, and over on the Iranian coast, early warning radars have already painted their target.
So that brings us right to the core question of our analysis today. What exactly happens when a multi-million-dollar U.S. drone gets blown completely out of the sky by an Iranian missile? How does the military respond when the asset doesn't have a human pilot inside, but the provocation itself is just massive? Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're breaking down our source material to analyze a modern tactical chess match. It's this high-stakes story of action, immediate reaction, and the brutal reality of electronic warfare playing out in the Strait of Hormuz. We're going to look at exactly how both sides maneuver, strike, and counterstrike using some of the most sophisticated and, as you'll see, sometimes surprisingly low-tech tactics in naval history.
Okay, let's start with Phase 1, down in a blinding flash.
So let's dive into this initial engagement. Claiming an airspace violation, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or the IRGC, secured a direct hit on that Predator drone. But how did they track a high-altitude target that fast? Well, the answer is phased array early warning radars. And listen, this isn't just one of those old spinning dishes. It's a highly sophisticated localized air defense web that's capable of detecting the drone's exact radar cross-section from miles away. They literally feed that firing solution straight to a surface-to-air missile battery, and just like that, in a blinding flash, the drone is nothing but falling debris.
Now, you might be wondering why even fly an uncrewed MQ-1 drone there in the first place instead of a manned aircraft? Really, it boils down to risk mitigation. In a zone that's this heavily contested, the U.S. relies on assets like the Predator to gather continuous, high-fidelity intelligence without ever risking a human pilot's life. I mean, the machine can be replaced, right? A pilot cannot. But make no mistake, the response from Washington is immediate. U.S. Central Command instantly orders a swift, highly calculated retaliation.
Moving right along to Phase 2, hunting the invisible waves.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the quote here, because it exposes the fatal flaw of modern air defense. By firing that initial missile, the Iranians instantly lit up their own radar positions. In modern warfare, every single shot leaves an electronic footprint. When you turn on an active radar dish to guide a missile, you're essentially acting as a giant homing beacon for the enemy. You are handing your exact coordinates straight over to U.S. command and control.
And the U.S. military has a weapon built specifically for this exact scenario. Strike packages of F-18 Super Hornets and F-15 Strike Eagles take to the sky, deploying the AGM-88 HARM. This is a specialized anti-radiation missile. It doesn't look for heat. It actually hunts those invisible radio waves emitted by the enemy's radar dish. As long as that dish is broadcasting, the HARM just rides the signal straight back to the source at Mach 2. It completely vaporizes the very installations that guided the initial attack.
Next up, Phase 3, targeting the command centers.
But neutralizing the radar is just the tip of the spear. Within 48 hours of the shootdown, the U.S. strategy zooms way out to secure total tactical efficiency by targeting the broader neural network. Because, think about it, why spend millions of dollars and precious time hunting individual enemy drones out in the sky when you can just do this? Precision-guided munitions are sent in to absolutely obliterate the main IRGC ground control stations. Step 1, the station takes a hit. Step 2, the data links between the Iranian operators and their uncrewed fleet are instantly severed. And Step 3, that entire localized drone fleet is completely grounded. It's a surgical, high-stakes kinetic strike that blinds the enemy right at the source. And they knew exactly where to hit. Through signals intelligence and spy satellites, the U.S. identified where these attacks originated. Take Qasem Island. It's massive. It essentially acts like an unsinkable aircraft carrier right at the throat of these global shipping lanes. Then you've got Gok for electronic warfare, Bandar Abbas as the naval epicenter, and staging points over at Bandar Kamir and Sarik. But what is absolutely incredible here is the U.S. Navy's bait-and-respond doctrine. While U.S. destroyers were out there actively locking on to incoming Iranian missiles, their own decks were simultaneously launching Tomahawk cruise missiles to wipe out these exact targets.
All right, Phase 4, enter the Mosquito Fleet.
With their heavy naval hubs taking such massive damage, the IRGC kind of has to pivot. And this is exactly where the conflict takes a radical, asymmetrical turn. The Iranians know they can't fight a massive U.S. Navy destroyer one-on-one. There's just no way, they'd lose. So what do? They go old school, using World War II-style tactics. They deploy these swarms of incredibly quick, small, fiberglass fast attack craft, classes like the Ashura or heavily modified Bagamar speedboats. The whole goal is to simply overwhelm the advanced U.S. defensive systems, like the phalanx. They do this by deploying dozens of these tiny boats all at once from every direction, presenting way more targets than the ship can track and destroy at one time. And this brilliantly illustrates their deadliest, yet totally lowest tech tactic. A lot of these boats actively disguise themselves as just everyday fishing vessels or commercial trawlers. Then they execute what's called the stern drop method. They strap these massive, heavy naval mines to the back deck, dart out into busy shipping lanes under the cover of darkness, and the crew, literally, they just roll or push the explosives right off the stern into the water. In a matter of seconds, they floor it back to the safety of the Iranian coastline before the heavy U.S. warships can even get a radar lock on them.
And guys, we aren't just talking about a handful of random explosives here. These little boats are tapping into an estimated Iranian stockpile of up to 6,000 devices. This ranges from simple contact mines just floating near the surface, all the way to advanced acoustic bottom mines that patiently wait down on the shallow seafloor. They literally just sit there waiting to detonate the second they hear the specific sound signature of a passing supertanker.
Which brings us to Phase 5, the 4-part denial strategy. So, to neutralize this massive asymmetric threat in such a tight bottleneck, the U.S. had to pull off a really aggressive counter-move. Instead of waiting for those mines to hit the water, which by the way forces incredibly dangerous mine clearance operations while under fire, the U.S. executed a textbook preemptive denial strategy to destroy 16 mine-laying ships. First, through a massive intelligence coup combining signals and human intelligence, they pinpointed exactly which civilian-looking vessels were actually the mine layers. Second, they struck them while they were safely moored at the docks, completely avoiding accidental international incidents out on the open ocean. And finally, the dual-target doctrine. They hit the boats and the mine storage facilities at the exact same time, using long-range cruise missiles and massive 2,000-pound GPS-guided bunker busters. It's a total game changer.
But what about the boats that did make it out onto the water? Well, the U.S. deployed the MQ-9 Reaper drone, armed with AGM-114 Hellfire missiles. These bad boys use semi-active laser or millimeter wave radar to maintain a lock on targets that are moving incredibly fast on the water. The Reaper drone's onboard sensors continuously track the boat, calculating its maneuvers and predicting its path. The missile actually adjusts its flight mid-air to anticipate and destroy a tiny fiberglass boat traveling at speeds up to 69 miles per hour. It is just a stunning display of technological superiority.
Finally, Phase 6, Echoes of Naval History.
Let's move to and see how this builds upon historical precedent. Because actually, to truly understand the gravity of these engagements in the Straits, we need to look backward. This is not the first time the U.S. and Iran have played a tactical chess match in these exact waters. It builds on the precedent set way back in 1988 during Operation Praying Mantis, when the Iranian fast attack craft, the Jashin, fired a missile at a U.S. surface action group. The U.S. evaded it with electronic countermeasures and instantly sank it, in the world's first ever missile duel between warships. Later that day, the frigate Sahand challenged the fleet and was completely pummeled by Navy jets and destroyers until its sack. And get this, that very same afternoon, when the Sabalan fired a surface-to-air missile at a U.S. jet, the pilot simply dodged it, looped right back around, and dropped a 500-pound laser-guided bomb directly down the ship's exhaust stack, crippling it from the inside out.
When you add up the sheer scale of operations during these historical and overlapping tactical responses, the U.S. has taken out over 60 warships and submarines in spans of just 10 days. Think about that number, 60. It proves that an overwhelming, precise, and immediate kinetic response has pretty much always been the doctrine whenever the Strait is threatened.
Which leaves us with this final thought. The overarching goal behind every single drone strike, every destroyed radar dish, and every sunken speedboat is ultimately securing the Strait of Hormuz. Roughly 20% of the world's daily oil supply flows right through this single, incredibly tense maritime choke point. So, as the technology gets faster and the electronic warfare gets even smarter, what will the next countermove in this tactical chess match look like? Keep that in the back of your mind next time you see headlines coming out of the Gulf. Thanks for watching this explainer and keep learning.